would you, I say this to you, the viewer, would you want to live in a country where innocent people were punished and guilty people were exonerated? No.
You had this law code, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Numbers. These are the words that are coming from God to Moses, okay? In this text, they're telling Moses, here's what you need to do as a nation from now until the end of time. Don't change, don't take away, don't add, don't subtract. Here's everything you need to know, done. Christianity comes along and says, well, yeah, that's cool, but we also have the Trinity now. We also have some other things too. We also, oh yeah, the laws, you can do them if you want to, but you don't really have to anymore. It just flips everything on its head. And so what you're saying is, if this was the case, why are we listening to Peter saying that he had a dream that we can eat whatever we want, rather than what Moses actually gave us? And on top of that, as far as something like suffering servant stuff, if that's the case, we should have the kingdom of heaven being given to us by Jesus without a question. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to believe in it. We don't have to have faith in it. It either happened or didn't. You're saying that this is black and white. There is no if it happened, if it didn't. If it did, it did. Black and white, yes or no. And the answer right now is no. Messiah hasn't come yet.
The Messianic prophecies in the Hebrew Bible are very, very clear. There's nothing mysterious about it. Isaiah 11, what will he do? He'll be a teacher. He'll judge people with justice. That's it. No, he's not a miracle man. He will judge the nations. I'm translating as I'm speaking to you. He's going to bring about a worldwide peace. It's really very simple. Isaiah 2, Isaiah 11 is very straightforward. What the church has to do is just dismiss all that. The New Testament doesn't even quote Isaiah chapter 2 for some reason and reinterpret text. Isaiah tells us who the servant who's suffering is. See, the chapters that introduce Isaiah 53, Isaiah 41, 8 and 9, 42, 6, 43, 10, 11, 44, 1, 44, 21, 45, 4, 48, 20, 49, 3. The servant is Israel. The problem for Christians is they just don't read it in context. I challenge Christians on the street. Like, what does it say in Isaiah 54? I've done this many times. You can watch the videos on YouTube. They have no idea, no clue. How is that possible? They don't know what it says in 52 or 51 or 50. So by having this knowledge of only one chapter and the rest of the book, all they know is Isaiah 7, 9, and 53. So what is that going to do to someone? So of course it's going to be completely ripped out of context. So subvert Isaiah 2 and 11, pick 53 without knowledge of the chapters that introduce it. How much trouble are you going to be in? An enormous amount of trouble. That's what's going on.
Let me ask you this. We can end on this too, because this might be this might be the slam dunk right here for Christians to hear this. Is there anything in the Old Testament, like Deuteronomy, the Torah, or anywhere in there, that we get the words from God to Moses, for example? Is there anything that is said that refutes that Christianity can't be true because it says this, for example? Like, something like God is not a man, or something along those lines. Like, do we have anything in the Old Testament if we all accept, even Christians accept the Old Testament, that everything's fine, everything's true, these are real divine oracles being given to Moses by the Most High. We all accept that. What in there that we know about refutes Christianity just existing?
As for the wicked man, the person who sins, if he turns away from his sinful ways, I will freely forgive him. Okay? Is it my desire at all to punish the wicked? Is it not rather that he turn from his sinful ways, that he might be forgiven? None of his transgressions will be remembered against him. Ezekiel 18, 21 through 23. The chapter is addressing the heresy of vicarious atonement. I mean, that's the whole chapter. So the context of Ezekiel 18 is that vicarious atonement is heresy, that the innocent can't die for the sins of the wicked. Fundamentally, if we even sort of move away, get rid of the Trinity, the doctrine of vicarious atonement is baked into the New Testament, with the exception of Luke Acts. There you won't find it. Whoever wrote the third gospel didn't believe in it, and in fact, the passage that Jesus was our ransom in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, and Matthew chapter 20, I think verse 28, that idea is completely opposed by the Hebrew Bible. Would you, I say this to you, the viewer, would you want to live in a country where innocent people were punished and guilty people were exonerated? No. Would you want to live in a country where people who are innocent suffered for the bad behavior of criminals? Of course not. We would never want it. Well, why would you think that God would want that? The idea is completely unknown to the Hebrew Bible. You reject it. So why would you think that you're more merciful or just than God? If you would never believe something like that, why would you impose it onto God? The question, Neil, I want to just address is this. Then why is Christianity so attractive? Then if what I'm saying in any way maps onto truth and of the Hebrew Bible, then why are people Christians then? Well, the answer is that Christianity addresses man's low self-esteem. When people look in the mirror, they see someone who's not attractive. People struggle with their self-esteem. Christianity simply affirms and says, you are a sinner. There's nothing you can do to save yourself. That's what's attractive, and Jesus will never betray you. Christianity essentially is man's effort to create God in his image, but the perfect man. Judaism is God creating man in his image. That's the whole deal. Jesus is what you will never be. He's perfect. He's not fat. He's in great shape. He's never bald. He has gorgeous hair. And Jesus is what you will never be. But if Jesus is God, why is he then righteous?
So it's God's anointed self. He anoints himself and then that brings a whole nother thing in, and we can have a whole nother discussion about this, is the idea of John talking about, in the beginning there was the Logos, and the Logos was with God. The Logos is God. Whoa, wait a minute. Why didn't Moses know about this Logos that was there in the beginning?
A fellow named Chaim. I'm not kidding. You know him as Philo, but his Hebrew name was Chaim. Lived in. Here we go. What did we talk about at the beginning of the show? Where does everything wicked come from? Alexandria. That's what Alexandria. We're not making this up. This wasn't planned. Neil and I didn't plan this out. We started off that Alexandria. What good thing can come from Alexandria? I'm obviously using a New Testament line. But Alexandria, so you have a guy who's a completely Hellenized Jew who visits the land of Israel, who lives exactly the time when Christianity begins. He's born in 20 BCE, and he's dead in the 50s. Right? So he's living exactly when everything happened. It's his influence, the Logos, all that is Philo. All that is a Jew who's completely Hellenized, of course.
And it always falls back on Philo. He's the answer to everything. But yeah, I don't any last touches on this topic, because I think you said a lot.
I think Jews are a very unique people. We can produce the best and we can produce the worst. We really are. I think maybe that's why we're so polarizing. We have produced the greatest prophets in history, and we've produced the greatest scam artists in history. I mean, no one can outdo the Jews, whatever your game is. I mean, you look at Paul. Although Paul is completely Hellenized, he was no doubt Jewish. Philo, these are the people who poison the world and produce really terrific people like the greatest prophets who ever lived, people who are willing to risk their lives on behalf of what they believed. Jews, I think, that's why I think Jews are in the news a lot. And it's because Jews are polarizing. We have this ability to produce the best or the worst that society could produce. And look at the effect that it had on the Christian world. So, yeah. That's the thought I wanted to share. That becomes so obvious with this.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו